This is your friendly Chief Investment Officer, Ben Winkler. Thank you all for dialing in for today's Master Activation Brief training session. This is 55 minutes that is going to save you dozens of hours and actually, perhaps even more important, hours of your friends and colleagues as well. And I think by the end of this time, hopefully you'll agree with me. I've got some esteemed colleagues with me today, including Kevin Howard, Managing Director here in New York over some of our more awesome accounts, who's going to go step by step through the Master Activation Brief, as well as Regina Gittleman, one of our Managing Directors of Integrated Investment, who will take you through the hows and whys. In fact, why don't we go straight to the agenda, if that works. We're going to begin with a quick recap of the agency redesign, and that's strategy and investment. This should be mostly remedial for the folks here on the call, but it's a good kind of context to set this up. Then Regina will tell you why we need the Master Activation Brief, and hell, what the thing is, and Kevin will take you step by step how to actually use the thing. And once again, this will make your lives easier and more meaningful. Finally, Regina will tell you what the assignment is. It's not hard, and we'll give you a whole week to do it, so even better than your college professors. So let's get started with a quick recap of the agency redesign. So guys, as you recall, we've determined that there's a reason why clients choose OMD, and there's a reason why employees choose OMD, and actually it falls into the same two categories of clarity and clout, and the Master Activation Brief helps us deliver on both of these. Off the bat, our clients choose OMD because of the clarity that we bring to their business. We help them make sense of an incredibly complicated media environment. We ensure them that all the recommendations we make are about them, not about us, and we make it simple for them to know who to talk to about what. Of course.
What happened? Can you hear that?
Yeah. Very good. Next is clout, and it's interesting because clout is often seen as an investment thing, but in reality, I would argue it's even more important from a strategic perspective. Our clients hire us and not some fly-by-night media agency because we know best practices, particularly when it comes to strategy. We deliver real thought leadership that's based on our experience across dozens of clients, not just their own. And of course, we have a wheelbarrow full of money of theirs and their fellow clients to bring to the marketplace. From your perspective, we do the same thing. You as an OMD employer not only would like to know, but are entitled to know what is your career path, what your responsibilities are, and how you can do more of what you like. And indeed, you benefit from the enormous cloud of OMD because of the resources and training we have at our disposal, the multiple disciplines. If your client asks you about sports, you talk to the sports guys. If they ask you about search, you talk to the search guys. You don't just go to Google and look it up. And perhaps most importantly, you don't have to invent things from scratch. Client asks you for a POV on today's YouTube news. You don't have to start with a blank piece of paper. You build off of what you already have. And in fact, that's a lot of what the Master Activation Brief is about. So the big question is, how do we deliver on clarity and clout? Well, to do so, we go back to basics. And it begins with this distinction that is pretty darn clear in the East between strategy and investment. We've defined and distinguished these two roles. And we've made sure that everybody knows that regardless of whether you're in strategy or investment, your role is digital. The expectation is that you understand, embrace, and can articulate digital. And if you can't, then there's lots of great jobs at other agencies you might want to try out. The third piece is critical, goes back to the resources of OMD. There are category experts that are unmatched across any agency I've certainly ever worked at, whether that's programmatic, innovation, sports, marketing and sciences. All those guys exist to support both our strategy and our investment teams. And if you're on this call, you're in one or the other of these. It's not a one-to-one relationship. OMD Programmatic can support both strategy when it comes to strategy-type questions or investment when it comes to investment-type questions. And of course, we can't forget that all this is in service of our clients. We are indeed a pink-collar, service-oriented business. I want to talk a little bit about this distinction here between strategy and investment, this yin-yang. This is so critical because this is where the Master Activation Brief comes in. There's lots of the job description for strategy and for investment are very different, and they have a zillion different bullets. But a key distinguisher that I want to talk about today is that strategy chooses the channels, that is all the way down to the sub-channel level. So not just digital, but how much money should go into search, into video, into display, into social, in addition to out-of-home and audience buying and radio and local and all the rest of it. What are the objectives for each of those media? What are the strategies? What are the KPIs? What are the insights? But only down to the channel level. Where investment comes in is choosing the publisher, how to bring those strategies and insights to life in the marketplace. That's not to say that strategies cannot talk to or shouldn't talk to the publishing community. They should do so all the time. It's a great way to learn stuff. They just can't and should not choose the publishers because that takes all the leverage away from our investment organizations, so we can't add value to it for our clients. Now, the big question that comes up from this, and this happens from time to time, is how do you make sure that the awesome thinking that comes from strategy comes to life as creatively and innovatively, if that's a word, in the marketplace? Now, when there's some accounts out there, mostly outside of New York, where it's the same person who does both of these things. They do kind of a half-assed job at both, but you don't need a mechanism to collaborate because it's just that one gal or guy. So when we have distinct groups, strategy, investment, you get this question. Strategy says, you know what, how can I trust my investment team to bring my awesome strategy to life? And the investment guys say, you know what, how can I make sure that I have the information I need so that when I go to the marketplace, I make the best possible decision? Well, guess what, guys? That's where the master activation brief comes in. And Regina's going to walk us through where we are so far.
Thanks, Ben. So as we discussed, the brief is a critical mechanism for strategy and investment to collaborate. And unfortunately, our current process is somewhat broken. There's a lack of consistency in terms of how each team is being briefed, and that prevents quality control. There's somewhat of wasted resources happening because there's so many current brief templates that strategy is spending time copying and pasting the same information into multiple templates instead of, being able to interrogate the client brief. And there's also a bit of too much complexity in the current templates. There's too many fields, include everything approach, which causes some people to skip the process altogether. All of which gets in the way of our goal, which is to allow investment to bring the strategy to life via innovation, integration, and negotiation. So what do we need in a solution? Well, it has to be simple, clear, fast, and multi-purpose. And as you can probably figure out from this call, the master activation brief accomplishes just that. It's as simple as you can get. It fits into one page, and there's also some modules, which we'll talk about shortly. It's super clear. We've included drop-down and radio buttons to minimize human error. It's very quick to fill out, and coming soon, it will actually be pre-populated for you in Vision. And then it's also going to be multi-purpose, so you'll be able to repurpose it for a publisher RFP with one click. So all of that is coming soon. But the most important part about the master brief is it's not just a document that, strategy team fills out and then emails to investment and hopes for the best. The key piece of this is the collaboration mechanism, and this should be built together by both teams and reviewed together. So strategy will lead the master activation brief, filling it out, but it has to have input from the investment team so that both groups are aligned. And we'll talk about the specific steps to accomplish that in a few slides. So in terms of the key components for the brief, and this is all fitting into the one page we discussed, the first part is planning parameters, and these are all the key strategic inputs that you might expect: business objective, communication strategy, all the great work you've done in Vision, audience insights, as well as target audience information and the key role of each channel. I do want to stress that identifying the role of each channel, as well as how success will be measured using a KPI, is critical for this brief because we want to ensure that as teams are going out into the marketplace, we know what we want to accomplish and how to achieve success. And we also want to ensure that clients are aligned to that approach as well. So that's why we are stressing that the role of each channel and KPI should be client approved. The next section we have is campaign parameters. So that's all the campaign specifics such as flight dates, budgets, geographic implications, assets and creative that's available or desired, any buying guidelines or restrictions, as well as savings goal needs. There's also a section in terms of analytics and reporting, such as the cadence for dashboards and reporting, as well as research study requirements or preferred vendors, and the cadence for cross-channel optimization. There's also tabs for specific channels such as video, local broadcast, print, digital, et cetera. And these are some additional questions and inputs that those investment teams need to really provide great programs for the client. So again, you only need to fill out those tabs if you're using those channels. This is an overview of what the master activation brief looks like. You should have all received a copy in your inboxes already. And then we can move into the actual process of how it works. So I do want to reiterate that a master activation brief should be completed for every campaign, every time, and it can be done in 3 easy steps. Once the strategy team has client approval under strategic plan recommendations, they should complete a draft of the master activation brief and set up a meeting. That's step 2, set up a meeting with the investment teams to review the initial draft, and then fill in any additional info gaps based on the investment team's input. In step 3, when strategy and investment have alignment on the inputs within the master activation brief, it can be finalized and the investment teams can go to market. So that's pretty much it, pretty simple. I do want to quickly go through the assignments, which Ben previewed earlier. All you have to do is fill out the main page of the master activation brief. You can use an existing campaign, or you can apply it for a new campaign that you have coming up. But this is a great way for everyone to get their hands on the brief and feel comfortable with it, so we can start using it for every campaign moving forward. Please make sure you are meeting with your investment counterparts to complete the brief, and also schedule a meeting with your MDII within 1 week from today to review the completed document. So that's it. If there's any questions, we can go through these now, and then I'll hand it over to Kevin to walk through a sample of a completed brief.
Regina, I'm actually, let me take this opportunity to also introduce everyone to the Chief Strategy Officer, Kristen Colonna, who I believe has just joined us and has a couple of words.
Yeah, no, I've been on for a bit now. I'm happy to see so many people having joined this important call. I think that we simply work in a super complex media world, and the purpose of this document is to make complex things simpler and clearer. So while like anything new, it's a little different to do it first. I think over time, it's something that should make your jobs easier. It should make communication easier. It should become a cleaner way to brief one another and potentially talk to partners in the marketplace and at your creative agencies and other partner agencies. So I hope that everyone embraces that. There's probably very little, if no argument, that could be made that all of the information in this document is A, not important, or B, things that you're not already talking about. So as we get bigger as an agency and continue to be one of the largest in the world, and certainly the largest in the U.S., and as we work on teams with tons of specialists and we work on teams of 5, 10, 20, 40 people, you know, we need mechanisms like this. So I appreciate everybody's cooperation.
Great, thank you so much, Kristen. So this is Kevin Howard, JD on the strategy teams for Cigna and Showtime. So I'm going to walk you guys through a sample master activation brief. Before we get into that, I have just a couple of things to sort of start off with. First, as you guys have any questions with either the presentation so far from Ben, Regina, and Kristen, please use the chat function within the WebEx software, so we can just kind of get them and we can reply as needed. Also, something that I will sort of start with here is just some overall observation as someone who's gone through this and filled out this document. First of all, it is absolutely very simple. It is very easy to fill out. It is very quick as well. There really isn't going to be anything or shouldn't be anything in here that is, especially on the strategy side, that we don't already know. What this is going to do for us is it's going to, as a strategy lead, it will allow us to better organize our thinking, organize our parameters, organize our approach. That will help to sort of make things a little bit easier for us to communicate to our investment teams. And then from the investment side, as we now share this out to you guys, what you'll find here is this is, in many cases, going to be one of the first times you may really ever have seen this type of thinking on the businesses and clients you work on. I think as a strategy team in general, we do a really good job of making sure we communicate the basics in terms of specs and budgets and basic allocations. I don't think we do as good of a job of getting our investment leads and specialists involved in the strategic process earlier in the game. So this can only really help our overall product for our clients and streamline our process a little bit as we go to market. A couple of other things too before we dig into the actual fields. This is a template. It was built to satisfy the masses of our many clients within OMD. However, it is not going to be perfect for any one client. So with that said, there is some freedom within the framework provided to make this your own. This document only becomes valuable to you and your team if it is tailored to your specific business needs. Make sure that you do that, okay? And as you go through these fields, and we'll go through each of them on this first Master Brief tab, we'll sort of point out some areas where you definitely want to make it custom and you will need to make it custom in order to satisfy what your specific brand's objectives and plans are. And the last thing here is there is a legend on the top upper right-hand field here. I'm going to point to them up here so you can all see it. You've got the red and the gray. So we have red areas and the proverbial gray areas. The red areas you absolutely must fill in. The gray areas you just have to fill in as well. So in reality, there's not going to be anything on here that you shouldn't be able to fill in. As we go through it, you'll start to see you may not have like market mix modeling results or things of that nature, which obviously then you just don't you leave that piece blank. All right, so we'll just jump right into this. I'll try to sort of highlight the fields as we go through it so you can know where we are. Basic general fields, this is all administrative. It's very straightforward. Client codes, product codes, all very simple and easy. Campaign objective. There will be a few fields down the business objective, so let's not confuse the two. The campaign objective here, what is the investment that we are going to market with? What is the objective and purpose that it is serving within the organization that is our client? So in this case for Cigna, we did this exercise for our brand campaign. Our brand campaign is the largest of the investments that we annually manage for Cigna. So we put this together as the campaign's objective is to drive brand health, specifically awareness, familiarity, favorability, consideration. Some campaigns may be more focused on sales. Some might be, app downloads. Whatever your campaign objective is, whatever that KPI is, you want to make sure you understand that. This is, again, one of those gut check moments. We'll have a few of those throughout this work session. If you're not clear as to what this is, just like Vision has started to train us over the years, you start having those better, higher-level business discussions. This is an opportunity to get that clarity from your client. If you don't understand what it is that your dollars are meant to serve for your client's business, just make sure you ask the question, up front. The next thing we have here is our campaign success metric or KPI. Again, what is the measurement that is going to be put in place to determine whether or not our plan and our investment was successful? Again, something that most of us, we already know, we should know this. What are we being held to? In many cases, a lot of our clients have contractual requirements that we need to deliver on. But what is that campaign success metric? If you don't know what success looks like before you start planning, you're going to be at a major disadvantage and you're putting yourself at risk for the client at the end of the process after the campaign runs to call you out and basically claim that the campaign was not a success because there was some ambiguity or vagueness up front, okay? The next section here, we have our communication strategy. Again, as a strategy group, our planners, we need to have a basic understanding of what is the approach and strategy that we're taking to deliver on that campaign objective. This is the how part of our job. How are we going to deliver, in this case for Cigna, disproportionately high brand health results, okay? So we always develop strategies, so that makes sense. Again, all part of, the vision work. A lot of this is, as Regina said, it'll be pre-populated, so some of this can easily just kind of come through. The next two sections here, we have target audience and buying audience. Obviously, there's a very clear distinction between the two. The way we've articulated this for Cigna, our target audience is really, it's our strategic target. It's who are we really going after, right? The buying audience is the realities of the world we live in and the limitations really in the broadcast mediums. where we are limited to age and gender demographics that our investment has to be guarantees are built against. But we all know in reality, no one really cares about an adult 25 to 54. That's not really our target. We all have a much more clearly defined, maybe even psychographically or behaviorally driven target definition that we really need to be going after. Make sure that, in this case for us, we have a custom segmentation for Cigna. So we have additional documents that support this that goes into tremendous depth of understanding of who each of these segments are, what drives them. For us, it's really more about medical or health behaviors and attitudes, as well as even medical conditions. So the next section here, what is the key consumer, brand, or category insight that we'll leverage to be successful? Again, straight out of Vision, really. I mean, we do a lot of work with that info canvas that leads to sort of our insights work and that insights framework. This is now sort of should be just routine for all of us as we work through Vision. What is that insight, or insights across, whether it's your target insight or a category insight, maybe marketplace, whatever it is that we think is really some of the driving forces behind that strategy that that's going to deliver on that objective. Another section we have here in our, the reality of the ever-changing landscape that we're in. I mean, we know that especially in the digital space, there's a very clear shift away from contextual relevant placements to audience-based placements. This is the power of programmatic and lots of other tactics that are now, intruding into sort of the media landscape that help make for much smarter, more effective and efficient solutions. So we want to make sure that we're clear to our investment teams, how are we as a strategy group thinking about audience versus context as it pertains to our strategy? Is it we only want audience-based targeting tactics? In some cases, like let's say an entertainment business, like I know I work on, well, I see a lot of our Showtime folks on the line here. Context is how they work for the majority of their placements. They live in a world where it's the association is critical. The being affiliated with certain partners is key, and the premium placement of having that homepage takeover on Rolling Stone for launch day is something that's really important for their business, at least perceptually. Other businesses, like I manage Cigna, in our digital space, we primarily, almost all of our non-search and social digital budget is all programmatic at this point. It's all running through audience-based tactics that feeds into our DMP and just gets smarter and smarter. So you want to make sure that you articulate that to all of our investment teams so they have an understanding of how we're thinking as a strategy group on this really critical topic. So now the next section here, I think it was, Ben sort of addressed this a little bit. This is another one of those really key gut check moments for the strategy group as we're filling this in. This is the role of each channel. This is something that I think the majority of our strategy teams, I'm sure, are doing a good job of just, as we're building out our plans, understanding that plans are complex puzzles and every channel that's in a plan is satisfying and serving a specific role to deliver on the full, complete picture, all right? Every channel that is being invested in needs to have a purpose. And as you're going through this exercise, it's a great gut check moment to just see, well, hang on a second, I've got national linear video on my plan, but why? And if you can't answer that question, then it really comes to, you just need to really rethink whether or not that element belongs in your plan.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite part of the master activation brief. And, step one is taking the hundreds of questions we'd love to have answered and knock them down to just this one page. The next sort of key part is this roles piece. From an investment perspective, if your investment team, or if you are an investment, if you know what role that radio is supposed to play, or you know what role that display is supposed to play, you can make much smarter decisions about what publishers to use and what tactics to use within it. Another key parts of the role part is that you can and should get your clients to agree to and support those roles. And this is important because when the results start coming in a few weeks, and the client goes, wait a minute, that click-through rate seems awfully low on those banners. And you go, whoa, hold on, client. The purpose of these banners was to get view time or reach, not click-through rate. Then they can go, oh, sorry, just kidding, move along, there's nothing to see here. And we can come back to that when we get to the KPI part. But the role part, it it comes straight from the insights and your objectives, and it ties right down to your KPIs as well. So if you don't nail that part, you're definitely you're not going to swim, you're going to sink.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, just so to give you an example of how, not that this is necessarily the best practice, but just as an example for Cigna, the way we approach this is we often have what we'll call sort of a strategic approach meeting. That is sort of the early phases of our planning cycle and process. It's a very valuable check-in for us as we try to align strategically with our clients. The roles of our media is a critical function, a critical output of that meeting, as well as the allocations of our channels. So we typically have a meeting that's really built around this entirely, and then from there, we can then feel confident to go ahead and brief out, the allocations and the specific goals and specs to our respective investment teams. But we only do that once we do get that client alignment and make sure that everyone's on board with the direction we're headed in. So again, this is really, really an important part of just planning in general. Sometimes, it could get sometimes lost, but I think we as a group, generally speaking, do a pretty good job of this. So this will sort of really organize your thinking, it'll focus it, and even better, it's going to allow you, it's going to empower you to just communicate this out in a broader way to all of our investment leads. So not only is it important for our video teams to understand the role of video within the greater context of the plan, it's really important for our video teams to understand the role of print, the role of radio and outdoor, because they can then have a better appreciation for not only the complexities of what the strategy teams do, but also really understanding how their piece of the puzzle fits within the greater picture. Okay, so then the next section we have here, we're in our first gray area, so this is great. So we've got a business objective. Again, it really, for me at least, I don't think really any of this should truly be gray. I think all this is pretty straightforward and can all really be read. If you don't understand your business objective in terms of what the objective of our advertising campaign has on driving business goals, we're not doing a good enough job of elevating our conversations with our client. This was literally the first day that Vision was launched. This was really one of the primary objectives of Vision, right? Is just to really allow us to sort of elevate our game and be treated not as a vendor, right? Because in the world of procurement, you can very quickly see how media investment can just be treated as a commodity and winners get to go to the lowest bidder. We do not ever want to live in that world. We need to elevate our game, and that really is a service agency that really begins and ends with our conversations with our clients and our ability to just, again, deliver a higher value service. And that means linking on to a business objective, not just a media objective, right? When you talk media objectives, you're talking impressions delivery, reach, and frequency, and there's value in that, but there's infinitely more value when you're having a conversation with your CMO that then may lead to a conversation with their CFO about how your media investment and how those impressions really are driving, revenue through 20% lift in sales next quarter, right? So make sure you understand that and include that into this brief. Vision work, we all at this point should be, seamlessly working through Vision, check all the boxes of the outputs that are really applicable and are worth sort of really sharing out. For Cigna, we have most of our investment leads and teams have access to our Vision plans, so they can go in and contribute when they find, great, research or new articles or content. They can just post it on our info canvas in real time. They have access to see as we update our insights canvas or, our value chain. They can get access to it and see it as it adjusts. So it's always good to have this clicked off so the investment teams know, which areas should they be focusing on within Vision. Here's what I mentioned earlier, again, media mix modeling. If you have it, that's great. If not, no big deal. Historical results and learnings. Again, we all have historical results and learnings, so let's make sure that our investment teams can sort of understand that. For us, let's say in Cigna, this example here, the primary KPI, the KPI for us is really brand health. So we have data with an annual brand health study. There's a ongoing brand health tracker. There is a market share data, which is really ROI. And then there's even, our Millward Brown digital brand health study as well, not to mention the basic digital performance data. So, there's a lot of data that we have that is all about measurement of historical results that we all should be sharing and learning from. Again, category competitive. I mean, we know everyone should know who their category key competitors are. It's always good for our investment teams to know. We want to have those conversations and get those early, an early heads up on a key competitor maybe coming into market, maybe investing in a big sponsorship. If that deal gets locked in, and our sales community can give us a heads up that something's coming, or if someone backed out of a deal, we may want to jump into it. It's just good to know, and communicate that outward to our sales partners so they can be on the lookout for us for any news that might be worthy for us to be aware of. And then the last piece here is seasonality. Again, every brand absolutely has some seasonality. Even if your seasonality is always on 52 weeks, no SKUs, that's still a seasonality direction that you can give, the strategy you can give an investment team. This is where you'd want to share out, do you have new product launches? Do you have, key windows of time through your year that are just critically more important to your business? For Cigna, for example, their key priority window really is tied to when the health insurance enrollment periods are. And, usually it's about 3 months prior, 2 to 3 months prior to the start of a new fiscal. Since the majority of U.S. companies have a fiscal that is calendar-based, so it's January through December, that means that the open enrollment window for us here in the U.S. is mostly really that October, November, December timeframe. So for us on the brand campaign side, we want to make sure that our brand health is at its peak right before that open enrollment window starts. So for us, we just dial things up a little bit around August, September, October, but we always make sure we have continuity presence throughout the year, again, with some tactics, not all, right? When you go down here, you've got some more detail. This is where we're going to get into the actual budgeting. So you have flight dates. Of course, for us, we just attached our full flow chart. So that's one other thing as well is, while it is true this is a one-page document that is clear, simple, easy to complete, we do want to make sure that we're getting the most out of this. So, to put in flight dates in this box, it may just be easier to just provide a flow chart. Strategy teams, everyone has a flow chart for their campaign. Make sure that you can just share that with your investment teams. They can get a sense of, what's going on and when. Cross-platform opportunities, yes or no, or events or sponsorship extensions, all, again, very basic, questions. Another important one here is the separate budget available for research or ad tech. This is an important one for our digital leads, especially because they need to understand, is there a separate budget for ad serving, for example, or does it have to be funded within the budget that they're provided? Again, it really just comes down to just smart and effective communication, right? You don't want to have those budget surprises after plans are developed. The next thing we have here is an allocation of budget by channel. So all the channels that we've established roles for up above should carry down into this section, and now we're actually assigning budgets to each of them. And for us, these are just some dummy numbers just for the sake of filling in the chart for the sake of today's conversation. But you should just make sure that you have the clarity here of how much money is going to each tactic within each time period. Then there are some questions below here in terms of the budget guidance, which are really important. As a strategy lead, we need to make sure we communicate any restrictions or general guidance on how firm or not firm our budgets are by month or by quarter. In our case, for Cigna, there's actually the firm budgets actually come by first half and second half. So we would just make, again, an adjustment to this and acknowledge that. The next section here, do you want to buy the budget or buy the goal? For us, the way we approach it is we actually buy the budget when it comes to tactics like our digital platforms, but we often buy the goal when it comes to, let's say, our linear video plans. So, we can just kind of work through this and make sure that the respective teams understand those nuances, but it's always important to make sure that we communicate that ahead of time. The next thing here, we have geography. So, if there's local markets beyond just your national, make sure that that comes through very clearly. Creative assets, we have sort of a whole other document that outlines that. With buying restrictions, again, most of us, I'm sure, on the strategy side do have separate documents that are buying guidelines or restrictions. Everyone has a concern about brand safety. Ben alluded to the YouTube issue. I'm sure none of us want to be in front of, ISIS or jihad videos. Not a good situation. So let's make sure that we communicate that to our buyers. Most of this is really common sense stuff, but some brands have increased sensitivities to this topic, and they have very strict guidelines on this type of thing. So let's make sure that comes through very clearly. Next section here, suggested partners. While Ben explained this very clearly and eloquently, the role of strategy is really to get to the channel level, and then it turns over, and that's the handoff period to the investment teams, where they go ahead and decide which are the partners or publishers. There might be some instances where a strategy team has sort of been doing some work, and there might be a partner or two that they think is a really good fit for the brand or for that particular campaign. There's certainly no harm in sharing that thought. Use the space to actually communicate that if needed. Next thing here again is some more buying requirements and guidelines. A lot of this, for us at least, is captured in our buying guidelines document. The brand safety, frequency. I mean, for us, I'm not sure, some brands may have actual requirements there. For us, our frequency discussion really is on the digital side, and it's really driven by some DMP learnings. We have a whole separate document on that as well. We've shared that with our digital team, with marketing sciences. They've sort of helped to drive that discussion, where we've identified, again, effective frequency levels by market. So we actually have found some nuances there on a market-by-market basis. Viewability, again, some brands have goals or minimum requirements in this space. Again, if that's an issue for your particular brand, make sure that gets communicated. These are the various SBUs. Any targeting or tracking of privacy limitations, make sure that comes through clearly. Again, savings goals, publisher commitments. So, again, if procurement from your client has invaded your contract and you do have a required savings goal year over year, it is absolutely critical that our investment teams are made aware of that. And then if there are publisher commitments, so if, for example, I know, if you're FedEx and you're a pretty big sports, marketer, maybe with some of the sports deals that you have, you may have a required spend on, owned league properties, if you're Pepsi, et cetera. Those are some commitments that you may be required to deal with. I know, for example, for GE for years when they had relationships with NBC, there was a very significant required spend on NBC properties every single year for that business. Added value priorities, again, what's the strategic role of added value? We should make sure that we understand that ahead of time, not just take what our publishers want to give us. We should be driving that discussion from the beginning, and that's where strategy needs to help and empower our investment teams to understand, yeah, billboards are great, but it'd be even better if we could get this or that, right? So let's make sure that that comes through clearly. Research, measurement tools, reporting cadence, these are all pretty straightforward. And then again, cadence for cross-channel optimizations or budget shifts. Again, every campaign and every brand is going to be a little bit different. For us on Cigna, because we're a brand campaign, we don't have a very short-term need for those types of optimizations. We look at things on a monthly basis and make adjustments as needed. Other brands that are more maybe sales-focused might obviously have a more short-term need to optimize quicker. And then the last, this is probably really truly the only gray box that really should be here, and it's sort of the all other considerations. So if we miss something in the template, make sure that's really important, make sure we share that. As Regina mapped out, there's the assignment. It is to fill out this particular tab and this tab only. It's expected to be deliberating 1 week from today from everyone that's on the call. People should only expect to be filling out one of these documents per client team. So, to my Showtime friends that are on the phone, I know there's about 8 of you right now. Only one of these has to be filled out, not 8 different versions of it. So please just make sure that happens, and we can follow up on that later. So that sort of completes the master brief. What I'm going to do very, very quickly is just maybe click through the other tabs so you can get some visibility into them. Again, they are very straightforward, and we can kind of just take a peek at it as we go through it. This is for video. We have sections here about creative, basic buying parameters, and then just general other questions here about, again, addressable targeting or data-driven schedules, product available for giveaways, things of that nature. So this is sort of for video. So again, when we talk video, again, just for all of our strategy folks, we are talking, this is national video. This is our national linear TV. This is our national streaming. This is our maybe VOD. This could be our OTT, this could be our connected TV, anything that is a national platform where a, let's say, 30-second video asset can air. We should be filling in this section to sort of help guide our video team. Now we have a tab here for local. This got really big.